morning, I-24 News Morning Edition on this January 1st, 2016, and it is finally the time, because I haven't seen him in a while, to say hello and good morning to Daniel Roth of The Economy magazine.
Good morning.
Good morning. Very important things that we need to know, and I think we're starting with...
We're starting with guns in America.
Guns in America.
As America starts with every day.
I'm glad that you bring this up, because we started the show with guns and the idea of relaxing gun laws in Israel. And I don't know if you probably know the statistics, if we're speaking guns, that in America there's a mass shooting daily, considering that a mass shooting is somebody using a gun to kill 3 or more people.
Right, and I think as of January 4th, yesterday, there hadn't been one in 2016. Yet, of course, there is a massive standoff in Oregon, not unrelated. So it's not as if America is devoid of gun violence at this moment.
But we have a report about this.
We have a report.
Let's take a look, break it down from there.
A few months ago, I directed my team at the White House to look into any new actions I can take to help reduce gun violence.
Those words, among the first spoken by the United States president publicly in 2016, have ostensibly struck fear into the hearts of American gun enthusiasts who see their right to bear arms as a constitutional issue. The idea that the federal government might move forward on gun control has, historically, led to an uptick in gun sales, often ironically taking place directly following mass shootings. And in the early days of this year, the trend continued at a major gun show in Virginia over the weekend, as President Obama is expected to announce expanded background checks.
Our fear is they're just going to make regulations that make it more and more difficult for people to own a gun and be able to protect themselves, which not only hurts us from a business standpoint, but is an infringement upon our constitutional rights, and it's a reduction in people's ability to be able to protect themselves.
Over the past decade, 750,000 people have been injured by guns and 320,000 have been killed, according to a 2015 report from Mother Jones magazine, which goes on to tally the annual cost of gun violence in the U.S. at $229 billion as of 2012.
All across America, survivors of gun violence and those who lost a child or a parent or a spouse to gun violence are forced to mark such awful anniversaries every single day. And yet, Congress still hasn't done anything to prevent what happened to them from happening to other families.
The gun industry is big. According to market research firm IBIS, it is worth $13 billion a year, and it's growing. Last year, gun sales put up at least 6 record-setting months as of October, and the National Shooting Sports Foundation, a pro-gun lobby group, says that over 260,000 people are employed in the gun industry, up 50,000 from 3 years earlier. Firearms have massive economic weight in the United States, and while not everyone is convinced that regulatory shifts will take place in the near future, the correlation is clear to others.
There is a lot more people in the show than I have seen in a long time. They've actually opened another side of the venue and stuff like that. So has it had an impact? I think it probably has had a pretty big impact on the sales.
President Obama has a scheduled meeting with Attorney General Loretta Lynch today to discuss executive action, including stricter rules for small-scale gun sellers and better checks on criminal backgrounds and on lost and stolen weapons.
Questioning you, Daniel Roth, because we've discussed this as the report was being played. What can Obama do right now, legally?
Legally, he can do not a whole lot. He can't put massive restrictions
on gun sales.
You know, there's this constitutional issue. For those who don't know, the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States gives people the rights to bear arms in a well-regulated militia.
And from a constitution that people will argue back was written hundreds of years ago and referred to the Wild West. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
So President Obama can do some things like expand the background check program. He can put more money, and these are some of the things that are expected, put more money into the mental health programs, into the ATF, into the FBI. And so, you know, in terms of both preventative measures as well as law enforcement, things like that don't affect necessarily directly people's right to bear arms, can't be argued that way, but that can fall within the executive power.
Within the executive power, and make it slightly harder to acquire a gun, reminding people again that guns are available in supermarkets.
Absolutely.
Next to the liquor liquor shelves.
And right now, sellers don't have to register anything.
No, don't have to register anything. Although, I mean, I'm opening this up a little bit because, oddly enough, I'm such a magician that I have also Tal Shalev with us here in studio this morning. If he does something like that, though, because to me this is interesting on that level, if the American president moves that along, then eventually, you know, what does that do for the elections coming up in the States? Because Tal Shalev is like me following them up.
Well, it'll become a bigger issue, I can assume, and it's just an interesting first step for Obama's last year in office. It just goes to show he's not waiting for Congress anymore, and he wants to finish his legacy. And one of, you know, the whole issue of gun control has been like a thorn in Obama's legacy up until now, and he wants to conclude his term, conclude his 2 terms with some achievement on that as well. Will it be enough? Will it work? We'll just have to wait and see. But it definitely shows that Obama intends to use this last year to do some things that he probably was quite afraid or didn't have the guts to do during while he was still electable or still under constraints.
Constraints. The only question is, what will this do for the election? What will this do for the Democratic nominees, I think, in the upcoming elections?
Absolutely.
Really quickly, just recap for us China. I don't know if we have time for the report, but moving along to China, what's going on there?
China, yesterday the stock markets collapsed, 7% drop. The circuit breaker system that was put in place last month shut down the stock markets in China, so trading ceased. They were worried that it was going to be a massive crash beyond that. Today we've seen what analysts are calling gyrating of the markets, up and down and up and down. And really what this is all indicative of is there was a bad manufacturing report, 10 months of manufacturing contraction in China. People lost confidence in the markets and started to pull their money out, basically. Right now, there's no story about how this will affect the economy. It hasn't destroyed China's economy. It hasn't broken down the world economy, but markets have reacted, and markets are really a measure of confidence.
Of confidence, but, you know, we are looking closely. The world is still standing firm for now.